Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Really do appreciate it. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 9 team. Folks, we got a little Sue Bird to talk about here. Sue Bird made some very interesting comments on her podcast the other day that I really think we need to talk about. I know that a lot of people have been very appreciative of Sue Bird and said that she's been very supportive of Caitlin Clark. And yes, she has said some nice things. She even, before a lot of other people went out and said, hey, Caitlin Clark's clearly the rookie of the year. It's just she passes the eye test and all that. And I've kind of been not as convinced, let's say. Selectively supportive is what I would say. I think Sue Bird has been simply smarter. I think she's been a lot more savvy in terms of what she says about Caitlin Clark and how she says it, but that she is not necessarily on board. I mean, this is old school UConn. We all know how that goes in the WNBA. We've talked about the Geno's nonsense repeatedly earlier in the season, and then just as the season went on, it became more and more obvious. And Caitlin Clark getting fourth in MVP voting, Rookie of the Year, first team All WNBA, and it just made Geno look worse and worse and worse. So I wanted to play this short little clip for you about from Sue Bird, and she's really talking. She's putting down Caitlin Clark here indirectly, mainly, I believe, because she wants to defend UConn where she went. So let's listen to her comments here, and then we're going to dig into it.
I just want to go back to the Breanna Stewart thing for a second, because to your point, I'm really just doubling down on it. The lack of beat writers, the lack of coverage in our world, in the world of women's basketball, 4 national championships is standard. That's not the case for men's basketball, really for any other
anything.
So like that is the bar. So in another world, it's like, oh, if you get to the Final Four championship game twice, that's an amazing, by the way, it is an amazing feat. It's not to take away from what Caitlin did.
It's just not
but
as
it's
amazing
not
as
4
doing.
national championships in a row. But if we had people talking about that, right, in this nuanced way, then the conversation changes.
Okay, respectfully to Sue Bird, this is stupid. I mean, this is village idiot stuff. This is absolute gibberish and nonsense. 4 national championships is not a standard anywhere. And by the way, if you want to say that it is, we could go back to John Wooden. I would think as a basketball player, Sue Bird might be familiar with John Wooden and the accomplishments that he achieved at UCLA. We could also talk about Anson Dorrance, the women's longtime soccer coach at UNC, and I'm going to get into that in a minute to compare to UConn and Geno and the differences there. But let's dig into we're going to compare, because again, this goes back to, don't forget what Diana Taurasi said with her nonsense, sarcastic, childish, immature crap about making the Olympic team as a rookie and saying, oh, well, I won 3 national championships, because people want to use that as the standard, which is absurd, and people do it selectively, right? People who don't think LeBron is the GOAT in the Michael Jordan-LeBron debate. I don't think either is the GOAT, by the way. The GOAT is Wilt Chamberlain. But in that debate of the Michael, people will say it's about championships, right? Michael Jordan was 6-0. LeBron's what, 4-6, something like that? Or is it 4-6, I think? Or is it worse? Anyway, it's not nearly as good. Of course, then those Michael Jordan fans are very selective, because they'll say, well, it's not Wilt either because he only had 2, but it's also not John Havlicek or Bill Russell, who had far more championships than Michael Jordan. So again, it's selective. And what we're going to take a look at is, don't forget, Caitlin Clark. Look, Iowa fans, and I think that was a great team. Everything I've seen from the players, the team chemistry, how they acted, fantastic story. But just trying to be objective from a basketball standpoint, Iowa was not UConn in terms of recruits right? 5-star recruits and all of that. And despite that, they went to back-to-back national championships, knocking off UConn, by the way, last year in the semis, knocking off defending champion LSU last year in the Final Eight in the regional finals. The year before, knocking off, I believe, was defending champion at the time, South Carolina, on their way to a championship. But let's talk about this because we did this with I went through this a little bit with when Diana Taurasi made her comment about she won 3 titles, and we can go back. But let's just take a look. Breanna Stewart, oh my, 4 national championships she won. Okay, so that means she played with players like Bria Hartley, first round draft pick, Stephanie Dolson, first round draft pick, Kia Stokes, first round draft pick, Kalina Musqueda Lewis, first round draft pick, Morgan Tuck, first round draft pick, Mariah Jefferson, first round draft pick. And by the way, Tuck, Stewart, and Jefferson all went in 2016, 1, 2, and 3 in the WNBA. So they all played together. And then there was, I believe it's pronounced Suniva Chong in 2017. And then, of course, Gabby Williams, who went 4th in 2018. Azora Stevens, who went 6th in 2018. Kia Nurse, who went 10th in 2018. Katie Lou Samuelson, who had a great college career, who went 4th in 2019. Yes, Nafisa Collier also won a championship with Breanna Stewart, who went 6th in 2019. And you had the same thing, by the way, back when Diana Taurasi played, a lot of players that were top WNBA picks, including, by the way, she played with Sue Bird. So to say that somehow is a better achievement, Breanna Stewart basically playing with a WNBA all-star team her entire 4 years of college. And again, even today, let's not forget, even though it's gotten deeper, women's college basketball not nearly as deep in any way, shape, or form as the men's game. And that's not a knock. That's just part of how a sport grows. Okay. And it's getting more and more competitive, which is why you're not seeing 4 national championships all day. You're not seeing those numbers by UConn. And I'll give you a great example in soccer. And I'm not taking away from Anson Dorrance because he was an incredible coach. This is incredible no matter what. And by the way, I'd say this is better than UConn. Just to give you a brief idea, if you can't see all these, this is Anson Dorrance, who ended up coaching like 30, I think 37, 38 years at North Carolina, won like 23 national championships, including, you can look at this, 81, 82, 83, 84 NCAA champs, 85 runners up. Then guess what, folks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more championships in a row. That's 13 in 14 years, and the other year they were runners up. And then they made it to the semis. And then 2 more championships. And then they were runner up. And then 2 more championships. And then they were runner up. And then the semis. And then champions. Then it was only to the 3rd round. Then it was the quarters, but then champions again. 3rd round, champions, champions. And then you see it getting less and less because, again, just like we're seeing with basketball now, the game was growing. The game was growing. So the great players were starting to play other places as well. And he still, right up to the end, did well. I mean, at the championship in 2012, right? But look, 18 and 19, runner up, runner up. The next year, semifinals. Then they did get upset in the 1st round. And then it was runner up again. And then it was the quarters in 2023. Right? Incredible, incredible career. And what I'm getting at with that, besides the fact that as the sport grows, it gets tougher, he had the same type of thing. And it's not a knock on the coaching. I've been to seminars with the guy, watching him. He's an incredible coach. But he also had most of the talent. A lot, if you go back a little further, a lot of the women's national team played at North Carolina. A lot of the big names, if you followed soccer at all, that you would recognize, like Mia Hamm and Heather O'Reilly, played at North Carolina. So one of the other things I want to get to this is you never hear this stuff. You never see this narrative in women's soccer with North Carolina, which arguably is more of an iconic institution than UConn in women's basketball. But UConn in women's basketball seems to be a lot more like a cult than UNC soccer was, because we never see the players talk about this. You never see the players act this way. I mean, look, who did Caitlin Clark play with? Again, the only other one that went pro that we know of right now is Kate Martin, and no offense to Kate Martin. She seems wonderful. She can play. I think in the right situation, she has a role in the WNBA for sure. But come on, we're all fooling ourselves if we don't think Kate Martin was specifically picked by the Las Vegas Aces because of who she is. You really think that's beyond what Asia Wilson and Becky Hammon, everything you've learned about them and seen from them, you really think that's beyond something they would do? You remember early in the season when Kate Martin was actually playing and they'd have her out at the press conferences, it'd be her, even though she was playing 10, 12 minutes, it'd be her and Becky Hammon and Asia Wilson, and they'd be bracketing her, and she'd be there. Look, it was like a hostage video, and she's talking about how amazing Asia Wilson is. We know what that was about. We know what that was about, folks. But yeah, so this is a little ridiculous from Sue Bird to be putting down Caitlin Clark's accomplishments. By the way, Larry Bird didn't win an NCAA title. You know, Tim Duncan didn't win an NCAA title. And so this idea that UConn is something special because back in the day, all the five-star recruits, because there weren't that many, all went to UConn. It made it pretty damn easy to win a national championship, didn't it, Sue Bird? That'd be like taking the WNBA All-Star team and making that an actual team and leaving all the other teams alone. That team would win a lot of championships. But that's what happens when you put all the best. And in fact, that would actually still be tougher because you still have very limited. You still have only the 12 teams in the WNBA. So that would still be a lot tougher than what UConn did back when, Sue Bird was playing and they didn't have any competition. So this stuff just does not stop. They cannot help themselves. They are just in this ridiculous cult like, I don't even want to say cult like ball. I mean, it is clearly a cult when you look at the way they act and you look at the stuff Gino Ariema said, which I just did another video where I just played a little bit of it, but the stuff he said about how delusional and stupid the fans are who think Caitlin Clark was going to have a good rookie year and be, in the top 4 for MVP, which, as we know, as it turned out, she happened to be and also made all WNBA. But I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts on Sue Bird's comments. Let me know your thoughts below about this ridiculousness with regard to UConn and that being the standard and all this other nonsense she's spewing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.